the University of Maryland, and I graduated from there. Go Terps.
That's it.
Graduated with an undergraduate, a bachelor's in economics, which was amazingly useful, or is amazingly useful when you consider ultimately ending up in the priesthood, because economics is a social behavioral study, and so kind of understanding how people spend and what they spend their money on is kind of, it helps in ministry. But I also was a part of the Navy ROTC, and so I earned a commission through the George Washington University in collaboration with the University of Maryland, and was commissioned an ensign in December of 1987. Had a 5-year naval career. Ended up getting out when I got here to San Diego. I lived at home most of the time. I did live on campus one semester because I really wanted to have the experience. My roommate's name was Greg DeRosa. No one will forget Greg. It was interesting when I got into college. I pledged in a fraternity. And I went through the whole pledge semester, and the grades really suffered, and thinking to myself, like, what is this really going to do for my future? Because it really didn't do much for my past, so I let that go, and then I got involved in the ROTC, and that was like the remaining 3 years of college. Actually, there were more years than 4 for me, but the last 3 were with the ROTC. And you kind of have to clean up your act a little bit. You can't, you're being scrutinized. You're in uniform a couple days a week. You got to set an example. Oh, I was dying to get into the Navy. Like, that was my thing. It's like I didn't care what I majored in as long as it landed me a commission. I really had just wanted to be in the armed service. So nobody in my family had done it. At least my dad's side. My mom's side had some Navy guys. I was the first officer in the family. I'd have to say that Korea was sort of maybe the beginning of my vocation. When I was in Korea, I was running with a bunch of people, gals, guys, and we were all headed to San Diego, and we were all Catholic, and we had all sort of fallen away. We had kind of like a desert experience, and so we weren't really religious about going to Mass. And then it was kind of, at some point we all kind of rediscovered that we're all Catholic, and geez, we really ought to go. And so we started going to Mass together, but the priest that was saying Mass, God love him, his accent was so thick, you could not understand one word. And so we all, we kind of toughed it out, but we all kind of made the commitment that, hey, when we get to San Diego, we're gonna go to Mass every week together. And one of the gals that was with us was actually from San Diego. She's like, yeah, St. Bridget, like that is the young adult capital of the world, and so that's where we're gonna go. Like one by one, we all shipped out. So I was like 3 months behind the whole lot of them. But by the time I got here, all of their orders had changed. They had all been sent somewhere else. But I still decided, well, I'm going to go check out St. Bridget. And I went, and I had an absolutely wonderful experience. The music was so joyful, and I was feeling a little bit confliction about the liturgy because I just hadn't done my catechesis. But I knew I fit. But I knew that if I didn't have a commitment, that I would drift away again. So I went up to the leader of the music group and I told him that I had some experience. And they were like, well, hey, bring your guitar to practice next week and we'll give you a tryout. And so, I looked over the music and I actually knew most of it. I was there playing the guitar and all during Mass, and I wasn't on a microphone, so I was singing harmonies and doing stuff like that. And at the end of Mass, the leader of the group, she hits me over the head with her book and she says, "You sing, you didn't say you sung." So I was in and I had a microphone, and so that was like the beginning. That was my first real ministry. Desert Storm started like when I was in the military. We were in the shipyards, and the master at arms came on board and he handed me a .45 and he said, "Defend yourself." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "We're bombing Baghdad." I'm like, oh, that's not good. So from then on, I was wearing a 45. Yeah. When you're in it, you know, it's not fun. I was really glad to get out, but it was one of those things that if I had it to do all over again, there would be things about it I would have done differently, but I would still have done it. When I was in the Navy, like that's where I learned that I could take a punch, and my whole life changed after that. Like you know, until you learn that you can take a punch, like you're kind of afraid. So I think it's almost like a rite of passage for guys. And I kind of worry because, you know, we live in such a non-confrontational culture. You know, you don't want to get sued. And it's like I kind of hope that all the guys have that experience of realizing that they can take a punch and defend themselves. So it was hard. I mean, we were over in the Persian Gulf in this big metal contraption in the middle of the summer. You know, it was 130 degrees during the day, and you know, it's tough to work. It's tough to think. It's tough to sleep. And you get the constant concern that there may be an attack. Now, coincidentally, as we were pulling off the shore of Kuwait, Iraq surrendered. So it's like we were in theater, but it was like, whew, we're not going to have to deploy the Marines, you know, other than to, you know, just do peacekeeping stuff. So we kind of lucked out, but it's kind of in my bucket of sometimes you got to sacrifice in life, and sometimes you got to look back and you got to ask, you know, how gracious were you in the midst of that sacrifice? And I wasn't. So it kind of, you know, maybe kind of prepares you for like the next little thing that is tough about your life. You know, maybe you learn to deal with adversity with a little bit more dignity. My whole organizational model now is, you know, it's a completely military model. Not that I'm, you know, chain of command driven, but I mean, organizing a business unit, you know, is basically organizing a division or a department on a ship. And so, I mean, there was, you know, you learn leadership skills. I mean, I don't know how successful I am as a leader, but you learn how to at least do it. You can't learn how to inspire others, but you at least learn the basics of like what works, how to kind of lay out an organization. You know, when you look at it from the standpoint of sacrifice, you look from the, you know, organization, time management, it was as valuable part of my formation as formation was. Again, I would do it all again. There'd be things I would do differently, but I would do it all again. It was kind of all the same step. It was, and again, that was one of the things that sort of affirmed for me that I might be called to the priesthood, because